Welcome to another episode of Show and Tell Books. I'm Chantelle.
And I'm Amber.
And we're going to do an intro video today.
It's long overdue.
So as you can see, we're actually in person. This is the first time we've been in person in each other's presence for about like 8 or 9 months, actually.
Yeah.
So we actually both flew into LA to go see Taylor Swift. So that's why we're here in person in LA. We're about to go to Taylor Swift tonight, actually. So we thought we'd finally film this video because we've been meaning to for forever, like you said.
Okay, let's talk about how we became friends, because that's a fun kind of
the world is small kind of stories. So Amber actually used to be my boss.
Yeah, I hired Chantelle to work as a student employee in the department I worked at a university, and
we hit it off. Like, we actually were pretty good friends. Amber and I found out that we were pretty similar, which worked really well for our dynamic as boss underling. What's the word for that? Subordinates? I don't know.
That's awkward. I don't know if I can ever think of you that way after it's been a while.
It has. Amber was only my boss for about 8 months, and then I moved on to an internship. But during those 8 months, in addition to us becoming friends, we realized we'd worked together 2 years previous at a different set of jobs. So that was just really fun because we were like, oh, actually, you knew that before I did. I did not remember.
Apparently, we were just meant to be in each other's lives. Yes. And because we didn't get it right the first time, more opportunities provided themselves.
And they came a lot.
Yeah. So, it was so funny, though, because you slid into my DMs.
Okay, that sounds so creepy. I left after about 8 months. I did an internship and we completely lost touch. Like, I actually thought Amber moved to a different state. We were friends on Instagram, but hadn't really talked to each other at all.
Yeah.
I don't think you know this, actually. I had a thank you letter for you for 6 or 7 months sitting on my desk that I meant to give you because I didn't see Amber. We worked together when COVID hit. So because of that, we went remote. So I didn't see you at all from what I started in January, and then it was March, and then we never saw each other again. So I had a thank you letter for you, and then I never gave it to you because I never saw you again.
That's so funny.
So that's to tell you how much I actually appreciated you being my boss. But fast forward 2 years from that, and Amber posts on her Instagram story kind of like a look how many books I've read. I'm so proud of my reading goal. And so I DM'd her and I was like, wow, that's actually really impressive. Found out she hadn't moved yet.
Yeah.
She was moving though. So that was...
I was still in the process of getting ready to move. So we started talking about the books that we were reading, and Chantelle, bless you for this, because it was a lifesaver. My husband had to go to training and was gone for a few months, and in that process, I had to pack up our house.
And move across the country.
Yeah. So she would come over and help pack my house as
we talked about books and movies. And it was fun. And it kind of rekindled our friendship and made it stronger. But it was also just great, probably once a week or once every 2 weeks, just talking about books. And I'd forgotten how much I missed that.
Yeah. When you're not in school, you don't have the opportunity to talk about what you're reading
because you have no time. Right? So how are you supposed to read a ton of books when you're studying or doing school?
But that's what drove us to start this channel and our individual Bookstagram and book talk accounts, because it was so fun to connect with someone else about reading and the books that we love or don't love. And that's what's great about this community is people share their recommendations or their thoughts on what's popular right now or some classics or childhood favorites. And it's really opened and expanded my world of reading.
I think what's definitely been my favorite thing is with Book Talk or Bookstagram or BookTube or all the book-ish categories is there's nothing better than getting to know someone, even virtually, and then recommending a book. You're like, okay, I really love this. Here's a piece of my soul. Here's a piece of this book that I love. Try it out. And then them being like, this is great. That is just so rewarding. And that definitely has been my favorite part is some of the comments or the DMs or the messages I've received from you guys being like, hey, I loved this book that you recommended, or okay, what else do you have? This series was fantastic. I need another one. And it's been fun and rewarding. I think that's been a cool part.
Well, and can I just like shout out Bookstagram for being so welcoming? I held off on creating my Bookstagram for a really long time. And then I made my first post, and no joke, like every comment was this: welcome to Bookstagram, welcome to our community. We're so excited you're here. And I don't know that many other places on the internet that are that welcoming and inclusive.
So I work in marketing. That's what I do full time, is I'm a marketing communications manager. And because of that, I'm on social media a lot, and I'm dealing with numbers and algorithm and all of that. And it's really hard and disheartening when you put a lot of work into something and then you see the numbers drop or tank when you're trying to figure out why it is a certain way. So I'm really glad we actually do have the book community, because while that still exists in, the algorithm or books or haters and trolls, they still exist, but it is so much better than it is on other niche categories. And I love that, because as creators, it's really just fun. One person commenting and being like, this was great, or having the welcome to Bookstagram, thanks for coming, like that whole feel. It's way more family oriented, community oriented than a lot of social media is.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. Let's transition to answering some of the most common questions we get.
Yeah.
I think the biggest question, or like the most commonly asked question, is how do you read so much in a year? We're just a little over halfway, and we both have read more than 100 books so far this year.
Yeah.
I have a little bit of an advantage, maybe.
Caveat with her book number.
Yeah, because I'm actually tracking the first time I read a book to my kids this year. So right now I read over 180 books. About 70 of those have been children's books.
Which is kind of fun and kind of a cute way for you to like bond with your kids.
Yeah.
Actually, I've read, I think, about like 130, which is pretty good considering my goal was 100. And last year I read 200. We'll see. I'm kind of on track for that. This is tricky because again, like I said, I work full time, and I also just barely moved back in with my parents simply because I'm saving money for a house in the transition period. So that's tricky because that takes a lot of my time being with family, working, and doing this and us talking. And
I'm a full-time stay-at-home mom, so I'm taking care of my kids, who are both under the age of 3 and very, very active. So a lot of our reading is audiobooks.
Yes.
It counts as reading, guys.
Yes.
Or ebooks, because that's kind of faster for us to consume and easier to take along wherever we are.
I will say I actually exclusively read ebooks and do audiobooks, obviously, but like I think I've only picked up one physical book this year.
Wow. Okay. You didn't know that? I did not know that.
I exclusively read through the library. Like the last physical book I read was Happy Place, because I knew the line was going to be so long and I wanted to read that. So I went and bought it. But that was probably the last, physical book I read this year.
Wow. I'm a book dragon. I like to collect books for my shelf.
You have a lot. I learned that because I helped pack them all.
Right? No, most of them are packed before you helped me pack, which she had to help me move the book boxes, which
those were heavy.
Because
you have a lot.
I do. But that's how we get so much reading done. Reading for me is kind of the therapy at the end of the day and the escape. And I personally have a goal to read at least a couple of pages every day, just because it helps kind of recenter where I'm at mentally.
It also is like a de-stressor, especially when you have little kids.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, let me take some me time, I imagine.
Oh, it's definitely for sure. Luckily enough for me, I have a super supportive husband who is like, you do you, sweetie. If you want to go up and read that book by yourself for an hour, take your time and read it.
Your husband is great.
Yeah. Which
kind of like, not the husband portion of it, but the rest of it kind of leads us into the next question we get a lot of, like, how do we pick which books we feature? So sometimes we pick books because I'll be like, hey, actually, this is a true story. Amber texted me and was like, okay, I'm finally picking up Red Rising, because her husband had recommended it to us. And it literally was within 24 hours of me having gotten that loan finally from the library. And I was like, wait a second, I also have Red Rising. Okay, since we're reading at the same time, we're going to do a book video on this so that way we can talk about it. So that's one way we do things.
Yeah, but a lot of it is what's trending and new releases, because everyone is already talking about them. And we think we have a different perspective a lot of the time.
Which is true. Other times, like, it's doing some research and figuring out kind of what we're also in the mood for. So our book club picks, so we have a category that happens every month. That also has kind of helped diversify. So then we do some research on like popular self-help books, and then we'll read those so that way we have stuff to talk about.
Yeah, the other category or like reading challenge I've embarked on is I went through a reading slump of about 10 years where after high school and in college and then like transitioning to the workforce, I didn't have a lot of time to read for fun. So from about 2010 to 2020, there were a lot of books that were incredibly popular I hadn't picked up. So I've been going through and reading those books too, and kind of catching up with the rest of the world.
We're going to talk about your Gilmore Girls challenge.
Oh, that too. That's been a fun challenge. So I am guilty of being one of those AP students who never actually read a lot of the books that were required reading. So I embarked on the Gilmore Girls reading challenge, where I'm going to read every book that's mentioned throughout that series in order of when it was mentioned in the episodes. And so there's over like 500 books if you break it down by references like that. And I'm on book 8 of that challenge.
You want a fun fact about Gilmore Girls?
You've never watched it?
I have never watched it, but my youngest sister has watched it twice, and I'm usually in the room when she watches it. So I know everything that happens, to the point where I think she rewatched the series like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I was just listening to it, and I'm like, isn't that the part where this and this and this happens? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, but doesn't this also end up happening at the end? And she's like, yeah. So I know literally everything. I've just never watched this show.
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of literary references in that show. And
it's a good way to read a lot of the classic works that sometimes you just need a little bit of push to read because they're boring.
They are. I oftentimes have to listen to them in order to finish them. And it's oftentimes at like 2 times speed because I get pretty grumpy about it.
Yeah. Pro tip, classics, audiobooks.
Yes. But you have to be careful about the narrator.
Yes, that's a huge thing.
So that's what sampling an audiobook is for, guys. Do yourself a favor and sample the audiobook.
Yeah.
Okay. The next question we get is,
what are our favorite books? So this is a very long, very complicated. We have a ton of books that we love. So because of that, next week we're actually coming out with a video of our favorite everything.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that. It's going to be really fun. We always say it's going to be fun, and I hope you guys actually think it's fun because we have a blast doing this. But we've kind of done our favorite romance books, period. Our favorite enemies to lovers, spicy romance, YA, fantasy, historical fiction. There's a ton.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that. Watch that. That'll answer some of your questions about what are our favorite books to recommend or favorite books that we absolutely love.
Yeah.
It's actually about time for us to head out to the stadium. So drop a comment if you have any other questions that you'd like us to answer. We will happily answer them. We love talking to you guys, and we really want this to kind of be a book community. So let us know any questions. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yeah. What I'm really excited for, though, can I just tease this? We get to go to the last bookstore in LA this weekend, and we're going to take you with us.
Don't worry. We'll do a full video on this. So
see you next time.
Bye.